Good to see you all, brothers. Good morning. It's a great joy to be here. I'll let you in on a small secret. I also fully agree CFC is the best church in Bangalore. Actually, I'd go far and say it's one of the best churches in the world. And the only reason I'm saying one of the best is that our home church, NCCF, isn't offended. Otherwise, it is the best. But I used to love hearing my dad after he would travel, come back, and he would say, excuse my saying this in Hindi, Sare jagah se acha hamara CFC. And everybody would cheer. That is my testimony here. I am so grateful. Many of you don't know the day of small beginnings, when a small body of believers met two shepherds, my dad and Brother Ian, 5 or 6 people, 1975 in our home. A few years later, I was 5 or 6 years old. My dad used to play the accordion. We got a small Casio keyboard, which was about this big. The buttons were very small. I learned to play the piano, and I played in the music, and then later on I could play the accordion. Now we have sisters who play the violin so beautifully, sisters who play the keyboards. It's a tremendous gift to see the young people, many of who were born much after I left Bangalore, being a part. I was so grateful last night to spend some time with the young people. We took a picture. I showed it to my dad, and he was amazed that there were that many people in the young people's group. And when I was a young person here in my teenage years, beyond my parents, I mean, you know that I'm related to this person, Zach Poonen, I'm his son. But there was always a hawk eye over me growing up because everybody wanted to know what I was doing, watching me, and it was a lot of pressure. But there were shepherds over me, Sunday school teachers, some other young brothers. Sadly, some of those young brothers are not in the church anymore. Some have fallen away. But God used them for a period of time. I pray for them often that if they have fallen away, they'll come back. But for that period of time, God used and I'm grateful for them. Even if they've fallen away, God used them. So I pray for every one of you who are, my dad talked about the next generation as the older. If you've crossed the age of 40, you're actually older now. And I'm past that generation too. I'm in my 50s. But if you're below the age of 40, that you will be a shepherd like many were to me in their 20s and 30s to the younger ones. So that God can raise, we didn't have 400 or 500 people in the meetings when we started. We weren't fashionable. People would make fun of us. We were despised in 16 DeCosta Square. Now it's maybe fashionable to be in a church, good music, good teaching, good preaching. Praise God for that. I never want to forget those days of small beginnings, and I pray that we will be humble all of our lives and respect. We'd never forget our roots. Many brothers and sisters have gone away from Bangalore, and they forget the impact that CFC has had on their life. I pray that until the day I die or the Lord comes back, I will be grateful to this church for the impact it's had on my life. Everything I've achieved on this earth is a perishable wreath. I'll talk about that in a second. The most important thing, what I want to share with you, a few things that I learned at CFC, is being conformed to that image of Jesus Christ. And I pray that that would be the testimony for all of you, especially young people. If you're below the age of 40, make that your goal. Life is short. I praise God of the witnesses here. A few brothers and sisters have passed on since 2019 to glory, since I was last here. I praise God for their witness. Many of them were dear friends of mine and my family's. May their memory and their witness be something that inspires us. Who knows whether we will be able to see each other. Thank God also for technology. My dad talked about Zoom. The CEO of Zoom is somebody I know, and after all of these amazing meetings that we're having in Zoom in 2020 and 21, he's a Chinese American named Eric Yuan. I said, Dad, I want you to introduce him on Zoom. And the impact that Zoom is having on the churches, thousands of people were meeting. Sometimes they would dial in from Tamil Nadu on a phone that it wasn't a smartphone. It was just a regular phone through a phone line. And Eric said, I don't know if what his faith is. He told Mr. Zach, if you ever need any IT help with Zoom, I'll be happy to help you. So if you have IT help here in CFC, I got someone who can help you with Zoom. But let me share with you, every time we start a year, it's good to know what is the goal of our life. Those of you who are finishing high school, you asked yourself, goal of your life. I shared this at RLCF a few weeks ago. I thought to share it again because I think it's relevant. 1 Timothy 1:5. It's important for us to remember every year, what's the goal of our life? What are we trying to get done? We're not trying to go to college or get a degree or have a big job, be famous in the world. The goal of our life is three things. And I learned this at CFC. So this is not just a verse in the Bible. I witnessed this myself, brothers and sisters, growing up here for 18 years. And then many years since then, because I've been here almost every year since then. Love from a pure heart. Number 2, it's a good conscience. We heard about that today. And number 3, a sincere faith. If we can keep those 3 as our North Stars. Everybody else in the world is seeking to have a goal which is perishable. And then let's look at one more verse in Philippians 3:14, which ties very nicely to this verse. I press on towards the goal for the prize. So just like many of you watched several weeks ago, there was World Cup football. All of the pursuit for 90 minutes is to get one goal or a second goal. And at the end of it, teams are eliminated. One team gets the prize. What's our prize after we pursue that goal to become more like Jesus? The upward call of Jesus. Nothing else matters. And I'll read one final verse and then I want to just share a few on this, and that's 1 Corinthians 9. So how should we pursue that prize? Very simply, as Paul says in 1 Corinthians 9. We run. We have to run every day. 1 Corinthians 9, 24. Do you not know that those who run in a race all run, but one receives the prize? So run in a way to win. And then it says a little further down, they do it. This is the world. They do the running to receive a perishable wreath. And that's something that's good, but we, an imperishable. It's the first thing for us to understand the prize. Everything that we pursue, we try to pursue on this earth, the earth tells us is important, is perishable. And to understand that the most imperishable thing is becoming more like Jesus. And that pursuit of that goal in 1 Timothy 1:5. Let me just share a few things about that that's been a tremendous blessing to me, not just during my years here, but let's talk about 3 things that I've really been grounded in my heart, and I want the young people. What does love from a pure heart mean? To me, it means that I discover that God is not a policeman. It's always, you start that way. My experience with all of you who are children, your experience with your father, initially you're scared, you're afraid of their strictness. But at some point in time, my relationship with my father moved from being scared to him, from becoming a friend, and I'm knowing that he loved me. And it's important that we have a fear of God, but to develop that understanding that the reason I don't want to sin is because Jesus has loved me so much. He gave his life for me that I don't want to disappoint him. And understanding that love means ultimately, it's not just one where he's my parent now, he's my best friend. And anything that we have on this earth that we need, before we even utter it, if that same Father has watched and taken care of the sparrows that fall, before we even utter our need, he knows that. To be secure in that love. So many, I see often, older people in life who somewhere in their life, they're insecure, they get angry easily, and you trace back, it's because they didn't have a father in their life. They didn't, in fact. And insecurities show up. You see people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, why are they behaving that way? They didn't have a father in their life. And that's the same way for many Christians. They don't understand that God is a father who is their parent and a best friend. Together. It's amazing. So may we be rooted in that love from a pure heart. And then our responsibility as we have children, whether it's our own physical children or spiritual children the Lord may put in our circle of influence, is to show that love of what the Father has shown to us, to them. And certainly for those of you who are parents to your children. The second, a good conscience. We heard about that. I don't need to repeat it. It's so important. I learned that here at CFC. Keep a good conscience. And when we have something that bugs us, keep that conscience sharp. I heard many times at the pulpit in 40 DaCosta Square, keep it like a knife that is willing to be sharp. And when you dull out a knife, you see these people who are sharpening knives because the knife has gotten dull. To keep a good conscience. And you see again many people who over the years, they have let something become worse and worse and worse. It might be anger, it might be lust, it might be love of money. By the time they get in their 50s, it's too late. Keep a good conscience when you're young. And the third is a sincere faith. How can we keep a sincere faith? When you look at how Jesus applauded those who were had that sincere faith like a mustard seed, they were humble. They were the humble of this earth. The rich and the famous didn't need that sincere faith. They saw the greatest man of God come and they just missed it because they were proud or they were arrogant or they had the humble of this earth were able to receive that faith and God was able to use them. Simple disciples who were fishermen and all these people who were in Bible school. So I'm so thankful for that sincere faith that I saw at this church. You may not recognize this, but a few things that my dad spoke are the testimony of CFC and the many tens or hundreds of the churches that the Lord has planted. Simple things like, no pastor or elders paid a salary. That we've honored the witness on money. We're not looking to get money from the West. We serve not because there's some fame that we're looking for. We're trying to create some big name for a mega church. All these simple things has allowed the Lord to create an incredible movement that's of the Lord. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for many of the churches. I was listening to some of the Tamil Nadu conference last week and just watching and hearing that was so blessed to hear Brother Victor, who's turned 60, just the shepherds the Lord has raised across this country. You are a blessing, brothers and sisters, to the far corners of the earth. So keep that flame alive. Keep that love from a pure heart, a sincere faith, and a good conscience. And may the Lord bless every one of you. I pray the Lord will do incredible things in this town through the witness of CFC Bangalore.